Hey folks, in this video I'm going to show you how to set up and install the Tableau MCP Starter Kit. If you're new to Tableau MCP, I recommend checking out some of the quick start guides I've put together. These just help you get started that much quicker and get used to how Tableau MCP works and start you developing some of these use cases for how you might want to use it in an organization. So in this tutorial we put together a web page that you can see here. And as you can host it as a web page, you can put it into a dashboard extension. So here I'm able to actually have a chat module in my dashboard, say if a user is interested in some of the data, but I can't show every single chart. What if I want to know about top customers here? Or they can actually go and just ask the chatbot and that will get back the data for them. I want to take 2 seconds just to explain how the tech works. We are connecting to your Tableau Server or Tableau Cloud account. In here you'll have those published data sources, the workbooks that you've made that have all the dashboards in them. So all the data that you trust that you're putting out to different stakeholders. We're then using LangChain. So LangChain is like a framework for working with different AI models. You can do some quite complicated things in this. But what I found is actually the simple agent that you can make with LangChain does a really good job. And that's what we'll be building in this. What this enables us to do is have this flexibility of we can bring any AI model we want. You can have many of the main providers like Claude, OpenAI. You can also bring your own local hosted models as well. The other part of this is the tools that we're going to use. Tableau MCP, that is a collection of tools to help us communicate with Tableau Server or Tableau Cloud. And there'll be specific functions there that we can do. Additionally, you can use other MCPs with this, so you just add those to the toolbox. And similarly, you can make your own custom tools. We've done this in the past with LangChain. In this case, we're just using Tableau MCP. What you can then do is take all of this agent you've made, and then put it into an application like a client application. In the quick start guides, we can go through Claude Desktop, but here we'll be talking much more about putting this into a website UI that you saw, and then having that hosted in a Tableau dashboard extension. The element of this is that it's all flexible to what you want, so pick your own model, bring your own tools, and have this all within your own security constraints. Okay, so in practice, what happens is our user will come along to our chat model, enter that query, what are our top data sources. The AI model will go and think, okay, what tools do I have to actually go and answer this question? Go over to our toolbox and say, actually, this tool, say list data sources in my case, would answer that question, run that tool, get the output, then pass that output back to an AI model that then formats that and gives it back to the user. For this setup, you're going to need access to a Tableau Server or Tableau Cloud account. If you're on Tableau Server, that needs to be 25.1 or later. If you don't have Tableau Cloud or a recent version of Tableau Server, I recommend coming here to Tableau Developer Program. Here you can sign up to get a free Tableau Cloud account. It will give you enough time to go and test out this project and see how it works. Next, I'm going to run through the entire setup of this project. Some of these elements you may already have, so check the timestamps below. In Tableau's MCP repository, you want to download this code. To do this, come to the green code button here. Toggle this, you will be able to, if you know Git commands, enter those. You can also open with GitHub Desktop or download the zip. If you download the zip, just make sure you extract the files out. While that is downloading, I will introduce some of the nice features of this. So you have all the code to run all the different MCP tools you get for integrating with Tableau. If you want to learn more about those tools, obviously in the README it has a lot of descriptions about the different tools. Check back as they do add more tools over time and there's more planned in the future. If you want to know more about how a specific tool works, so for example, I want to know what actually list field does. So if you go to source tools, this is where you have the code for all the tools. It's written in TypeScript. Don't be too put off by that. If you know the APIs, like the metadata API, you'll be able to work out what the tool is doing. If I go into list fields, in list fields, I can see it's running this GraphQL query, so you can see what fields it's bringing back. So if you wanted to improve, say, the AI's response, adding descriptions is going to be a very helpful way of doing that. At this point, you should be able to go and see those Tableau MCP files. So this is all the code from GitHub. What we need to do now is install this with Node.js. For reference, we are working through this installation part here. So we've cloned the repository, Node.js is next, and then we're going to run these two commands. To do this installation step, you're going to want to open a terminal window here. You can do this either by going to a terminal or in your folder, entering CMD, which will open a terminal window at your folder location. First step is make sure you're in this folder. If you've done CMD in this folder, you will be there already. If not, you can take this path at the top here and just do CD for change directory, right click and enter that. What I need to check is that I've got Node.js installed. So I'm going to enter the command node-v. I can see here I've got a version number come up. If you find you get something other than a version number, like an error message comes up, I recommend coming to the download node page and downloading Node for your machine. You will then need to install it. You may need to restart your machine just to make sure that it picks up the command Node. Now we've confirmed we've got Node on our machine, we can run npm install. This is Node's package manager. What this will do is install all the packages we need to go and run our MCP server. Installing the packages has found some low vulnerabilities. Fix these by running this command npm audit fix. So we've installed those packages. We now just need to go and build the MCP server. So we're going to execute npm run build. So you should see 2 files have been created. So now you've successfully installed Tableau MCP. Up next is getting the starter kit code on your machine. So we want to go and download this, and we'll be installing this next. So as before, green code button, download it however you want and extract it to a folder. For these next steps, I recommend opening up VS Code to help you navigate around the files. 3 dots and go terminal, new terminal. Now we're going to want to set up a virtual environment and install the packages needed for this project. So following the guide, I will install this virtual environment. You should see a folder has been created, .venv. In here will be the scripts, so this will be able to run Python from this location and also install different libraries to this place. Next, we're going to want to activate the environment just to show that we want to write all our packages to this folder. I have the script for Windows. There's a script for Mac users in the guide. Effectively is running it, going into scripts and running this activate. Some people have issues with this, so other activates are available. You'll know if that is activated correctly because you'll get this .venv. The next step, we will be installing everything in requirements.txt to our local environment. We can do this running pip install and then pointing at the requirements file. Okay, that will run through and install the packages. What you do want to double check is that in your virtual environment, under lib for library, you have those libraries being installed. Sometimes it will pick like a different Python interpreter and use that. You can always check which Python interpreter you're connected to by doing Control-Shift-P, select Python interpreter, and then picking the one that is your path here. If you're still having issues with the pip install not installing these libraries here, you can always go to your Python executable script here in your virtual environment, copy the path, and then do this -m pip install requirements.txt. The last thing here is to make a copy of this environment template and save it as .env. So to create a copy of this file and rename it, you can run this command. Otherwise, it's a simple copy, rename the file. In this .env file is the configuration for talking to the different services. So Tableau, AI model, Langfuse as well. Okay, so let's start from the top. I'm going to go over to my Tableau server or cloud account, and I'm going to start filling in these details and creating a personal access token. On my server URL, this is going to be this section here. So everything from HTTPS up to .co.uk or .com without the slash. So it should look something like that. Now, the site name, you might see over here, a name here, nice display name of the site you're on. What you want is the one from the URL. So you want this one up here, and you can go and enter that there. Okay, next we're going to set up that personal access token, but this is a good point to talk about the security side of things of what you're giving the AI model access to. So this personal access token will give the AI model access to all of the content you have on a particular site. Here we have created a new site, a special site for Tableau MCP. We've given it different data sources to access. That is how we've decided to partition this off from other more sensitive data sources that we don't want to be shared with OpenAI. The other ways you can handle this is go over to users. You can create a new user here. Then what you want to do is set up a group of permissions here and assign that user to that group. So It might be MCP user with MCP like AI ready datasets and have it access the content that way. As a heads up, there is work currently underway to add in other authentication methods. Check back on the project over time because new authentication methods are likely to be added. So to create my personal access token, I'm going to come up to top right, my account settings, and I will come down here to personal access tokens and I will create a token. Here I will get my secret value and my name. Make sure you copy this secret because it will go away after this screen. And I'm going to go and paste those into my environment variables file. So my token name becomes my pat name, my secret becomes my pat value. Okay, these next settings about the credentials and the tools are all optional and okay to leave as they are at this present moment. For your MCP file path, that is the folder location on your machine. Again, making sure that you keep this build.index.js at the end. So if I take this folder here, I can go and copy this. Okay, so the file path should look something like this, or forward slashes. If you have backslashes, you will see this sort of red come up. You just go and forward slash those out and save that. For model providers, this code will use OpenAI. Of course, you can use other models here. You can use your Gemini, your Claude. If you've got an API key or some way of accessing it, you can add in this. You just have to enter in a new environment variable for, say, Claude API key and enter that value there and then reference it later on in the code. You're going to want to come to the OpenAI platform. You'll need to either sign up or log in here. When you've signed in, you'll want to go up to the top right into settings, the cog. You'll want to go over to API keys and you'll want to go and create new secret key. The name of the project don't matter too much. All you need is the API key that you'll get next. So here's my API key. I'm going to copy this and put this in my environments file. Okay, all that giving it a name and adding it to a project does is help you under usage see how much you're spending on that API. We can do this another way using Langfuse, which we're going to do next. Okay, on langfuse.com, we can go to app. Okay, signing up to Langfuse, you'll create an organization, you'll get a hobby space, you'll then create a project. So I called it MCP demo. You will then come down into settings in the bottom left here, and then over to API keys. You can then go and add in, go and create a new API key. Here you'll get your secret key, your public key, and your host. All the things we need to go and put in that .env file, and then I will be able to go and have a look at what the AI is doing in Langfuse later on in the video. Okay, so we've installed Tableau MCP, we've installed all the packages for the starter kits, we've set up all our configuration in the .env file. What we can do now is actually go and run the web application. So we're going to run python webapp.py. What this will do is run this Python script here, which we'll talk about in a minute. So if you see this, that means everything's installed, everything's ready to go. So this is running on your localhost port 8000, and we can go to localhost :8000 and take a look at the web application. So this is our web application. It's a simple interface to do a chat module, so you can go and chat to Tableau MCP. One of the first questions I always ask it is, what data sources do you have access to? So I want it to run that list data sources tool, and it should return me a response. I can see here that this is just returned like that list of data sources to me. We can actually see what's going on behind the scenes by going over to Langfuse. Log back into Langfuse, you see this element. You might see them all grouped up together. Come down to say lang graph. Actually get to see this, but in here you'll get to see the messages. So what data sources do I have access to? And then later on you'll get to see that tool called list data sources coming through. And then lastly, the response that comes back from the AI model, which is what we've got in the chat here. So this is your AI assistant. This is in a web page, but you can also bring this into a Tableau dashboard extension as well. So with the starter kit, you'll see a folder dashboard extension. If you click into there, you will have Superstore. This is a dashboard connected to Tableau Superstore. You will also see this T-Rex file. So this is our dashboard extension to bring in the AI model. Okay, so when you open the workbook, you will be greeted with this allow extension. What this is doing is going to go and connect to your localhost port 8000. So you need to make sure that the script is running, and I can see in VS Code that is working. Click OK, that web page will come back to you and you can ask questions in the same manner. And there we go. So I can ask it things that aren't shown in my dashboard, but it's part of that data set. So I haven't added customers to the dashboard, but it's in the data. For those extra ad hoc queries that are in the data, but you don't have a place to put them in the chart, they could be answered by this AI tool. If you needed to add this from scratch, you can come over here to the bottom left and find extension, drag that out. You go down here to access local extensions, and then you'll find, if you go into dashboard extension in the starter kit, Tableau LangChain T-Rex, and open that, and that will come out. Okay, so the web app will run in that web page in a dashboard extension. That's all good. Now, the one issue you might find is that this dashboard extension, it can access other data sets. So I can ask it, and you can see here, this has access to everything on my Tableau server that I've given it access to. And whilst that's good in certain scenarios, here in the dashboard extension, I can see there's like an EU version of Superstores. And if I was to ask it to run, say, a query for that, it might pick the US version, it might pick the EU version, it might pick a completely different data source. In the next steps, what we're going to need to do is change this dashboard extension so it's using customized tools to only point at the data source that it's currently showing in the dashboard. So if you open up the script dashboard app, in the majority of cases, this script is the same as the web application one, with an important difference here. So lines 32 to 43 is how we are going to configure this to use a different version of Tableau MCP. So I've taken a fork of the Tableau MCP repository and created some custom tools that will be fixed to a particular data source. So this is where we can find the identifier of our data source that we're using in our dashboard, put that into our environment variables, that .env file, and then these particular tools will pick up that environment variable, use that data source to only answer these questions. So in a sense, we're not giving it that access to every data source. We've fixed it on one, and it will only be able to, in this case, find the metadata, so know the columns, and then actually run queries against that data source. To do this, we'll need to come to this GitHub repository. Okay, so this is my Tableau MCP repository. This is the experimental folder for adding these new tools, forked from the original. So this gives you all the script of the original, and then also gives you these additional tools. Before you going to want to go to code and download this script and unpackage it just like you have done with the other Tableau MCP folder. And as before, you're going to want to run Node.js on that, and npm install and npm run build to create this project. So the folder should look like this. So Tableau MCP experimental should be there, and we can go and bring that into our script. Put in my file path. Again, it's got to be the // not backslashes. So I'm just going to get this updated. I'm going to save that. The other thing I've got to do is update this fixed data source LUID and actually find it. So if you go into utilities, you will have this find data source LUID. This is the GraphQL query to help you find data sources on your Tableau environment. For this, we are using the metadata API, and I will show you how to get there. On your Tableau server or cloud, go to external assets, and then you'll see in the top right here, query metadata GraphQL, and you should come to this place. Okay, so I've pasted in my GraphQL query. I've just updated this name here to be the name of my data source, like the full exact name, and that's come back with this response here. So I now see this LUID, so it's LUID. This value I'm going to put in my .env file under fixed data source LUID. So I've updated that environment variable. Now all I need to do is go and run python dashboard app.py. And as before, that starts an application running on localhost 8000. I can give my old chat a refresh. I can see that that's working there. If I go back over to my dashboard extension, I can come up here and go to reload, and that will come back. Now, with this dashboard app, I can go and ask it the same questions, like what data sources do you have access to? The text might be a little small here, but it says, I only have access to a pre-configured Tableau data source, the classic Superstore. So won't be able to access other data sources that I have on the server. Meaning it's just going to be able to just query what I have here. And I can see here, like what columns do I have access to, which give me back everything from Superstore. In this case, it know that it's not going to go and pick another data source. On that sort of topic, It also can't pick knowledge from the internet or other sources because it doesn't know about them. So I can ask it things like, what's the capital of France? And here you can see it says, I only provide answers based on Superstore. I can't tell you what the capital of France is. You can see it's not going to try and make up a response. It's going to base what it knows off of those tools that we've given it access to. I'll walk you through the code now and how it works. So a large portion of this is importing these different libraries to make the tool work. We also set up some logging here. If you don't do this, you'll get a lot of messages come back for every single tool call to the machine. These next two, these are local files that we're importing. So prompt in utilities under prompt. This is the system prompt. So I've given a very generic identity here about an AI analyst, what it's there to do. We also have chat. This is how the text gets returned to the screen. Next, we're bringing back the environment variables. So this just helps find that Tableau MCP install that you've done. And lastly, just setting up the tracing that you just saw there in Langfuse. Next, we're setting up our agent to use those MCP tools. This is where we define the tools that we're going to give to our AI model. So MCP tools, this is loading in the tools from Tableau MCP in our session. We then define our AI model, GPT 4.1. This is quite a good model. This is where you would go and change it. So if you define LLM equals, you'll need to bring in a different function. So you might need to import LangChain Anthropic, LangChain AWS Bedrock, or some kind of package like that to bring in the relative function. So now we're constructing our agent. So we'd use the function create React agent. This is your basic LangChain agent, and then it works really well. You give it the model, so that AI model. You then pass it the tools for MCP, the system prompt, and then the checkpoint that just helps keep that sort of memory history going. So we defined our agent. Now we're just going to go and deploy it to that web page. So this is creating that web page, serving up some of the static files, and then this is where we have that chat module availability. So this is where our agent is having this back and forth conversation. And lastly, just hosting the apps. So this is the Tableau MCP Starter Kit. This is the way that you can get access to those Tableau MCP tools with the help of an AI model out to your users. So this can be either via the web application we saw or by that dashboard extension. So the steps after this is really start fleshing out that use case of how you're going to use these tools. The example I've given you here with the dashboard extension, that could easily be a very popular data set that people are using that the dashboard doesn't quite give the users everything they want. They still have more questions, generating a lot of ad hoc requests. You could serve up that MCP server, put this in the dashboard extension to help that self-service for your users. Other things to consider are that system prompt. Is the prompt there? Is that going to give you the output? Is it going to perform the task that you're expecting that AI model to do to help those users? There's also the AI model. I always recommend going with a larger context window or more expensive model to start to make sure that it actually can perform the jobs. Some of the smaller models will struggle to run the tool calls or even handle the response from those tool calls coming back. So start big with that model, and then later on you can see how to reduce the cost by going to a smaller model. You also want to think about the security aspect. So we're using that personal asset access token. Do you really want to access all the data on your Tableau server or give it the exact same permissions as you do? We spoke about how you could configure another user to take on that MCP role and certain permissions around that. Or you might want to configure those tools to just use certain data sources like I showed you in that dashboard extension. You can get feedback on how the AI model is performing using Langfuse, so you can export all those logs out of Langfuse to go and analyze as well. So if you see that people are asking you for particular data sources over and over again, maybe there's a dashboard there that needs to be built to go and help self-serve those needs. And lastly, there's the UI, the interface, that web page we're serving up. You can obviously change the colors using the style sheet. You can change some of the functionality on there. It's really over to you to what you want to try and make the starter kit in for your own applications. And obviously, I'd really like to hear some of the things that you're doing with the starter kit. And if you have any ideas, always just drop them in the comments below. I'd love to see them and understand these different use cases. But that about wraps up for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.